In this video, I'll be checking out the MUNBYN laser engraver, and I'll be using it to make some professional-looking wooden signs. The laser engraver is well packaged to prevent damage during shipping, and it has a nice green-colored aluminum frame. This kit even comes with a rotary table, which is a great add-on. It's built around a powerful 10-watt laser diode, so it can engrave deeper into materials and cut out objects more rapidly than other machines that use a cheaper and less powerful 5-watt laser diode, and has a 400 by 400 millimeter build area. That makes it suitable for medium to large size projects, or for mass-producing small items. The assembly process is quite simple. You're helped along by these excellent written instructions and pictures. The bags of fasteners are individually labeled, so you don't have to dig around searching for the right nut or bolt for the step that you're working on. All you need to do is bolt the frame together, slide the gantry onto the frame, attach the feet, and then string the belt. The one step that's a little tricky is stringing the belt. Basically, you lay the belt down into the aluminum extrusion and loop it up and around the pulley wheel, then lay it back down into the aluminum extrusion. Once everything is in place, you clamp down both ends of the belt using the provided T-slot nuts. Gently pull on the belt while tightening the last bolt so that there's no slack left in the belt. Verify that the belts are tensioned by moving the gantry back and forth and observing the belt for any slack. The laser module simply slides in from the top here, and once you tighten this in place, the mechanical build is complete. The wiring harness is fully assembled and is sticking out of the control box. Plug in the appropriate connectors and you're almost ready to start engraving. To control the engraver, I'll be using a USB cable and a laptop running MYNBYN. MYNBYN is an amazing piece of software that runs on Windows, Mac, or Linux. It can work with almost any type of picture file and has a bunch of powerful image processing tools built into it. The only issue that I had during setup was that the laser engraver was not initially recognized over USB. Basically, you need to install a driver that helps your computer communicate with the laser engraver over USB. I'll leave a link to the SparkFun website where you can download the necessary driver. SparkFun is a reputable retailer of electronics parts, so I think it's the safest place to get this download. With everything working as expected, I'm now ready to start the first project, a Half-Life 2 themed beehive. Unique markings like this will help a beekeeper keep track of their beehives and tell them apart. Also, bees use visual landmarks to figure out where they are, so the engravings are somewhat of a sign that helps them find their way home. You can take basically any 2D image file and plug it into MYNBYN, so you can get source material from MS Paint, your cell phone camera, your favorite CAD program, or a Google image search. You need to do some trial and error so that you can get the correct brightness, contrast, laser speed, intensity, focus, and line spacing. There's a lot of settings to play with, but there's also a wide range of values that will work. The best way to figure things out is to start engraving on a test piece until you come up with some settings that work well. Once you've determined your best settings, I'd write them down so you can use them again in the future. Alright, and this bee box turned out really nice. The only problem is that when I see a wooden crate like this, I really want to break it open with a crowbar. The next project I'm going to demonstrate will be a nice looking sign for our same beekeeper to elevate their branding and give their booth a more professional look. I'll be making this sign in 3 steps. First, I will engrave their logo into the wood. Second, I'll cut out the sign, adding a couple of holes so they can hang the sign from their tent or table. And finally, I'll finish the sign with some brushes, sandpaper, and a surface treatment to bring out the wood's texture and protect it from the elements. Just like in the previous engraving job, I'll import the graphic into MYNBYN and let the laser do its thing. This was a much longer engraving job since the sign is larger, but all you have to do is wait for the machine to finish. It's best to just leave it alone, checking on it periodically. Don't bump into the engraver, the workpiece, or the table while it's working, otherwise you might mess up the alignment and have to restart. This engraving took about 3 hours. I could have spent more time tweaking the settings to make it run faster, but since I'm only making one of these signs right now, I don't mind the extended runtime. Now that the engraving is complete, I'm going to cut the sign out of the larger piece of wood. I'll just draw a boundary around it in MYNBYN, which will define the outline of the sign, and then I'll insert a couple of circles, which will be used to cut out the holes. When cutting things out of this wood, the number of passes is an important parameter. More passes takes more time, but if you don't run enough passes, you won't be cutting all the way through the material. Just remember that it's easy to let the engraver run a couple of extra passes, but once you've taken the object out of the laser engraver, it's almost impossible to line it back up again. so I always err on the side of making too many passes. You can see some smoke coming out the side and the bottom of the workpiece. This is a good sign because it means the laser has pierced all the way through your work material. One thing that I messed up on this sign is that I accidentally left a wire under the wood, so it wasn't sitting perfectly flat. This made it difficult to cut the sign out because the laser wasn't focused on one side of the wood. Also, you want to consider what the laser is going to do once it pierces through your workpiece. This laser engraver kit comes with a piece of sheet steel that you can put underneath your workpiece, so when the laser cuts through to the other side, it's going to run into that piece of steel and it won't damage what's underneath the table. As you can see, it didn't cut all the way through, so I have to finish the job by breaking it out. A razor blade is incredibly useful in cutting the rest of the way through the wood, and since the laser already drew a line there, it's really easy for me to repeatedly score that part of the wood and cut the rest of the way through. Once you've broken the sign free of the larger piece of wood, it's a good idea to go over the edges with some sandpaper just to remove some of that charring and get rid of any splinters that are coming out of the sides. I'm using a brush here to remove loose pieces of charred wood. If you don't take care of these now, they might come loose later and make the sign look kind of funny, so just keep poking at it with the brush to get rid of all of those loose pieces. This kit comes with a small brush, but I found a large paintbrush like this to be much more useful. It can also help to do some secondary cleanup using a damp sponge, which will get rid of any of the wood dust and it'll pick up those smaller pieces of charred wood. The sign's almost finished now. I'm just going to apply some boiled linseed oil to give it a nice shine and some weather sealing. It also gives it a nice golden honey-like look, which is great for the bee theme that I'm going with here. Now that the sign is finished, I think it turned out pretty well. It has a nice rustic charm to it and fits well with a farm, old-fashioned, or forest theme. This laser engraver has been a pleasure to use. Aside from the small issue with the missing driver, the laser functioned perfectly. This kit included some bonus content like the rotary table, which will allow you to brand and label cylindrical objects. It also came with laser safety glasses. When you're cutting flat, non-reflective objects like this plywood, the laser's pretty well contained. But if you're going to be engraving anything that isn't flat, or you're engraving a shiny or reflective material like glass or metal, you should definitely be wearing laser safety glasses, in addition to taking extra measures to keep yourself and your eyeballs safe. The MUNBYN ILEM-GR laser engraver is well priced for a machine that comes with a 10-watt laser and rotary table. The 10-watt laser diode will allow you to engrave and cut objects much faster and will allow you to tackle more difficult materials. Based on my experience with other similar lasers, it should be able to etch or engrave stone, steel, glass, and more. So if you decide to get one of these lasers, I'd encourage you to experiment with other materials. One of the best things about these lasers is you can use recycled materials to make new objects, like plastic, wood, or metal panels taken off of broken devices. This bee sign is a great example. The sheet of plywood that I used actually used to be the bottom piece of a wooden drawer. If you want to pick up one of these MUNBYN laser engravers, I'll leave a link in the video description. And if you like this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.